It's a great question, and I do get this often. I have made some videos, but I will just put it simple as this. With the root races, now you can understand the root races from the biblical bloodline lineages. If you want to understand how to read your Bible, I would suggest getting Manly P. Hall's book on how to understand your Bible. It's what it's called, by Manly P. Hall. There's also Alice Bailey's work that goes into root races, and Rudolf Steiner goes into root races, and there are others. Let me go get my book. There's also Philip Lindsay, his book, and the Soul Cycles of the Seven Rays, Part 3, Esoteric Astrology and Its Initiation. There's also the Hindu teachings, their lore talk about the root races. So there's a lot of material out there about the root races. Also, you can get the Gene Keys book and by Richard Rudd, and he also talks about the root races. But the fundamental piece that everybody was missing was the hidden empire of Tartaria. Had these beings been aware of the empire of Tartaria, they would have been able to put the pieces together that we'd already experienced the sixth root race. Which is, if you do read the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, he talks about the coming epoch, about basically the relationships, and how the freedom of love and the new epoch of their sixth epoch or sixth root race would be love and unconditional, and they would have the creative potential and all these other things. But we can actually see that, and Alice Bailey talks about how the sixth root race will begin in Brazil. And we can see, if you look at the Spanish, or not really even Spanish, it's just the native South American, even the Mexico. I grew up next to the Mexican border, Mexico, and these people are full of love, amor, and just they have such a kindness in their heart naturally. I'm not talking about the cartel. I'm not talking about the shit people, because obviously the indigenous of the South Americas were invaded by the Spaniards 2,000 years ago with the conquistadors and all that shit. Okay. But if you just look at their culture, the romance, the love, the passion, the corazon, the heart, I don't care if it's Mexico. It also goes into Costa Rica and like all of the Brazil. It's all focused around love and music and dance, and that's their heritage. And so, yeah, they had the heart, the fullness, and then they still live very simply. They're okay with living a simple life. They know that family is what matters. They know the heart, the love. They know that love isn't always just only good times. They're not polarized into positive fucking bullshit. They understand that love is trials and it's triumph, and they understand that a full heart is found within the simple things in life. And so and you also notice that in the natives, right? Even in the Americas, right? They can have not that much, and as long as they have that connection to spirit, to the earth, to nature, and they have their tribe, their community. If you were raised in or around a Hispanic or an indigenous native, community, and you're raised in a city, or you're raised in a Western mentality, money, the Joneses, we've got to have all of these things to be, if you were raised like that, then it could be more difficult to see. And what I find as a dilemma within Alice Bailey's teachings, Helena Blavatsky's teachings, Steiner's teachings, even Philip Lindsay's teachings, is they lack corazon. They are very pompous in their writings, and dousing people with their ignorance, because they considered themselves so astute in the esoteric world, and they just saw themselves as above the simple human. And honestly, it's not about the level of divine intelligence that you have with words, intellect. It's about the level of heart that you have, and the divine being able to express through that, through acceptance, through love, through compassion, through forgiveness. Like seriously, growing up around this, the Spanish community, but it's not Spanish as in Spaniard. It's Mesoamerican. You know, it's indigenous, it's Aztec, it's Hopi, it's Mayan, the Mesoamerican community, and I'm blessed in that sense. Being a gringa, you know, I always considered myself a gringa Latina. But when you grow up around people that have so little and still have so much heart, don't say that there's not drama. There's totally drama, but they can forgive through that. Like, you can do the most fucked up shit. Like, obviously not unaliving and without, you know what I mean? Like the whole cartel stuff, like, no. But like, you can do some really wicked shit. And the level of forgiveness that comes just from understanding and being able to see to the soul of a person, to smile and say, you know, no, mijo, that's not good, that's not acceptable, but you know, I love you, but you need to get right with God. You need to figure this out within yourself. I'll support you, even if that means at a distance. Like, I'm blessed in that sense that I was raised in that community. So I know that's not really about the root races, but it is, because it is the simple, subtle cues that so many people miss because they're looking for a level of status. And you can see that in Tartaria. You can see that in the Moors. You can see that in all of the cultures that are the buildings and the cultures that are left that were torn apart, like the Moors, or what we call today the Afro-American lineage. You know, there's still so much love and community and connection in them as well, and remembrance. And like, even though it was tortured out of them, you know, by these fucking settlers, but you can't break the spirit, no matter how much they come in and they try to, like, with this conquest. But anyways, the root races, you can look, and it's all over the place in esoteric material, even down to the Bible. Get a Manly P. Hall's book, How to Understand Your Bible, and look around at these, why they hid Tartaria, why they destroyed the megalithic structures in the cities, and why they called these star forts, you know, the fort islet, you know, these were on ley lines. And so they were trying to hide it because they and I mean, like, the time of Satan worshipers, the devil cloaked, right? They don't want people to know that we're in the end of times, because then people have the mentality that, oh, I'll just it's not a big deal, there's more lifetimes, or, you know, the second coming of Christ is coming, and like, I'll be saved by that. But in reality, we're beyond the second coming of Christ. That was the millennial reign. That was the 1,000 years of divine years of peace, the millennial kingdom, the kingdom of Christ. And that's where all these Christian teachings come from, was from the kingdom of Christ, when the world was under Christ's reign, Christ consciousness, the heart. And so the only one left to save you is you, your common sense. So I hope that you found this insightful.